Welcome to the WRC podcast. I'm your host, Katrina Marie, and you're in the right place. Here at the Well-Rounded Counselor podcast, what you can expect is to learn, shift your thinking, and gain personal and professional growth. And if you have not yet done so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another podcast episode. The conversation starts now. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the WRC podcast. I'm so excited today because it's a long-awaited person I'm about to interview, and you guys get to hear it firsthand. Before I introduce her, I just want to welcome you if you are new and you're new to this podcast. Welcome from wherever you are listening. And I hope you enjoy being a part of my community because it's a lot of fun, and everybody who comes in contact with this content always learns something personally and professionally, so welcome. Today, I have the privilege of welcoming Lindsay Kehl, who brings over a decade of international experience in education and school counseling to the forefront of her work. As the founder of Lindsay Kehl Consulting and Collaborative, she is based in the United States and has honed her expertise in empowering school counselors worldwide. So she is the ideal person to get to know today. With 12 years dedicated to international school counseling across diverse landscapes, which include Panama, Zambia, India, Romania, and teaching in Japan, Lindsay has cultivated a deep understanding of cross-cultural school counseling best practices. Driven by her passion for supporting school counselors, Lindsay channels her extensive experience into actionable strategies that help foster holistic student development. Her commitment to excellence and innovation in counseling practices make her a sought-after resource in international communities worldwide.
I'm great, Katrina. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so pleased that you are here. And I know today's topic is a very important topic that we're going to be discussing today. But before we get into it, can you tell us a little bit about your background, your professional journey, and how you decided to become a counselor?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to. So Katrina, I am originally from Minnesota in the US, and I am back here now. Early on, I knew I wanted to work in a school, but it became very obvious that teaching was something that I didn't want to do long term. It was really fun while I did it for a couple of years living in Japan. But I moved back to the US and I started exploring what are different careers and schools that I could possibly do. And I found school counseling, and I realized that was the perfect fit for me. And combining that with international education, I really found my perfect professional fit. Around the pandemic time, things really shifted for my family and we needed to move back to the US. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. So I had never been a school counselor in the United States before. I was able to try that out for a few years, and it was great as well. But there's nothing compared to being an international school counselor. And so I have been able to, in the last year, kind of job craft my own position, where I'm really combining a lot of different things that I love to do through my consultancy, which you mentioned. Thank you. So I work part-time for Mito, which is a nonprofit that reverses the college search process. I do private college counseling. I work 1 day a week at a school doing school counseling. I work for Initial View doing the interviews for them with international students that international students can send to universities around the world. I've been really active in creating counselor education and professional development here in the US and with schools internationally, and especially working with the International School Counselor Association. I was going to add too, is just really my goal is to keep furthering the field of school counseling.
Amazing. I absolutely love everything you shared with me. And we have something in common. And I didn't know this until you just shared it with me and my audience, is that I also have never been a school counselor in the US. Well, you clearly made that transition, but then my professional experience has always been abroad. So it would be quite an adjustment, I feel. It sounded like it wasn't a big adjustment for you when you went back and tried it out.
Yes. One thing that I think really for me was a huge difference is the level of college counseling. I realized how much space we have in international schools for doing college counseling. And then on the flip side of that, then domestically, I feel like I got a lot more experience with the social emotional counseling at the secondary level. And I feel like it helped enhance my skills as a school counselor because I got to practice that side so much more than I had when I was abroad. So there were great things to being a domestic school counselor as well. And I feel like it helped me to be a better school counselor, a well-rounded school counselor. and I'm very thankful for the opportunity.
Amazing, amazing. Now, I know today we're going to talk a little bit about an interesting topic that's trending, and it's the topic of AI. So let's jump into that. Can you share some practical tips to our listeners of how they can use AI? Because I know you recently did a webinar or a masterclass with ISKA, and first of all, how did that go?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was so great. I was really happy to connect with the community. And one thing that I started with and I shared there is, I am not a tech expert. So that is not my area of expertise. When I first talked to Cheryl from ISKA about it, she asked, "Is this a pet project of yours?" And I was like, "No, it is not. But it is a topic that we as school counselors really need to know about. And my passion for helping school counselors is so great that I am willing to learn this so that I can teach it and promote it within school counselors, because I feel like this is something that we all really need to know." Yeah, so to kind of jump into your question, I think there's lots of practical uses for AI in school counseling. During the webinar, we did just a quick survey to find out what are school counselors currently using it for. And a lot of the people in that webinar said that they're really using it to write emails right now. That's kind of the biggest use that people see with it. So, yeah, I definitely do that in my work. Just this week, I used it to come up with scenarios for a student who's really struggling with anger management. So I was able to input into a generative AI chatbot, "Hey, I have this student. We're working on the emotion anger. I'd like to create these scenarios to help him." It gave me 10 scenarios. And then I was able to go back in and say, "Hey, actually, I need the names of the characters and the scenarios to be more representative of this student's like population in the school," and just giving it other tips to help it really kind of narrow down and hone what would be appropriate scenarios for this student. So that, I think, just to highlight, that is something that probably would have normally taken me about 30 minutes to do, and then with the use of AI, I was able to do it in about 10 minutes.
I love
So
that.
I think, yes, me too. I think like it's so important because AI can really help streamline our work. So being able to write prompts, being able to create lesson plans, visual aids. So like the webinar that I did with ISKA, I had slides go create the slides for the background. I let it know my topic, it generated slides, and then I was able to put the content in those slides. Yeah, so there are like things like the chatbots that are really helpful. Another tool that I think that every counselor should join is called Magic School, and that is one that is really comprehensive. It has a chatbot within it. It also has ways to create lesson plans, give you questions for restorative circles, just to name a few of the things that Magic School can do.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I did see that you are affiliated with them, and it looks very interesting. I personally have not used them, but I know myself and my team, we have been learning a lot about the use of using AI to leverage getting our time back essentially. So I know that those of you out there that always say you don't have enough time, listen to Lindsay. She knows what she's talking about. She's going to help you save some time with just crafting how can I reply to this parent email who's upset about XYZ, and then, it's going to spit out a nice beautiful response template that you can amend if you need to, but it's going to save you so much time, people. Those emails, I agree with you. They make a difference.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you just said is that's so key, Katrina, is that it is a template, right? So we're able to tell the AI machine what we want. It gives us a template, and then we can kind of tweak it and put our our human touch in it. And I think that human touch piece is so important too. So you said like we're always complaining we don't have enough time, and this will really help us to think about what are the ways we want to spend our time. So if we're spending our time and lessening our time on the things like writing emails, that means that we have more time for that human side of things, where we get to spend time with students more one-on-one, or doing groups, or doing the things that really involve the human touch, which is so important. I think the reason why most of us are probably in it, like I don't think very many of us entered this field to write emails.
No, not at all. So, with that being said, what challenges have you found using AI in our role as educators, like in the day to day scope? Because I know we talked about the benefits, but what challenges are you finding?
Yeah, so I think Katrina, you really hit on one of them. I think that oftentimes school counselors are so busy that they're not even really having time to enter into using AI. So in the webinar, for example, we did a survey, um, and I asked the school counselors, like, how many of you are using this? And about 50% of the people who were present in the webinar said that they have used it and they are using it and they felt like pretty okay with their use. The other 50% hadn't really used it really at all.
Mm.
So I think with that, I think there's a really important thing to stop and think about, like, why is that happening? I think you hit on one of the reasons why we're too busy to really have time to make time to learn something new. I think another thing is the relevance. So I don't know about you, but for me, I've heard a lot about AI use in terms of college counseling.
Mhm.
And so for college counselors out there, I would bet that that's the kind of main population that have been using AI because it's relevant. It really affects the college essay. UCAS has added in information about AI. There's so many relevant and applicable things within college counseling, and I think the middle school and the elementary school and the kind of pre-K school counselors. I don't know that there's this huge thing pushing them to use it. So I really encourage school counselors to kind of stop and think about what are their mindsets related to AI use. I want to highlight that this is still new. It's not too late. I think some people, we've been hearing about AI. AI has actually been around for a really long time. It was first coined in 1956. And if you use things like Alexa or Netflix, AI is in your life. Like those Netflix recommendations are AI giving you recommendations. But really, what we're talking about in the last kind of year or couple of years are generative AI. But this is definitely still a new thing. And it's still something that counselors can get into. It's not too late. So I really want to encourage counselors to really think about what are their mindsets related to AI, and then when they're thinking about those mindsets, I want them to try on some new ones. So I have 4 suggestions for them to try. So one, if you haven't used it at all, I really recommend pulling up one of them. So whether it's ChatGPT, Claude 3, um, Gemini, there's Copilot. There's so many new ones out there now. So pick one, sign up for it, and use it for something fun first. So, for example, for our international school counselors, everybody loves traveling, love to plan trips. So use it to get trip recommendations. So think about what is the next vacation you're going on. So maybe it's to Athens, and you put in there, okay, I'm going to Athens for 3 days, and I want you to suggest some fun things for me to do. And then you'll be able to see the things that it's suggesting. I think it's really important to highlight that it's a conversation with the AI. So don't just leave it at that first prompt and be done, but to kind of challenge the AI to dig deeper. So I'm going to Athens. You suggested these things, but I actually really want to like find historical interesting things. Give me some more of those. Or I want to find some good cooking classes to learn how to make some Greek food. So keep going in the conversation with the AI when you're using it, but start using it with fun things first so that you get comfortable with the prompt engineering and with putting in prompts. All right. And then the second one that I want you to think about is to think about it like your intern. So, we maybe all have had an intern or two in our experience as a school counselor. And I want you to think about like what are the things that you don't have time for or that you don't want to do and you'd rather give to someone else. So try using it for those things. So I know, for example, when I had an intern a few years ago, I would make the presentations that we were doing for parents or to students. And then she was super creative and really put in a lot of detail, like on the presentations, and could really make them look beautiful. And AI can do that too. So now I can go to Slides Go. I can put in, what I want for the content, and they will create the slides and beautify it. So just like that intern, there are uses for AI that are appropriate for that. All right. And then the third one is to kind of treat it like Google. So anytime you would go in to Google something, instead use AI and see what would come up. I think it's really important to note the difference between these things as you're doing this. So please keep this in mind. Google is there to show you what resources are out there. So you get a whole list of a lot of different things. AI's purpose is to generate new content. So when you're putting in the prompt, you're going to get new content created by the AI. So these two things are really, really different. And this is something like, for example, like AI can have hallucinations, which is kind of where it just makes things up. And so it's really important to keep that in mind. I think as you're new to AI, it's not always necessarily going to give you accurate data because it's creating new content. So please be sure to fact check the information that it is giving you. All right. And then the fourth mindset that I think is really good to try on is think of it like a weakness attack. So AI is not going to be the best for your strengths. Like if you're a good writer, AI is not going to write better than you. But think about what are the areas that you're not very strong in that you really could use support and help in. And those are the areas that AI can help you. So those are a couple of kind of mindset tips that I have for school counselors that haven't or just kind of minimally have used AI so far. I would love for you to try out one of those mindsets and see how it goes.
I absolutely agree with Lindsay. It is your mindset, people, because a lot of times out there, people look at AI as this like evil thing and it's taking over the world and it's bad, 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 and everybody's plagiarizing. It's actually very helpful. And Lindsay gave you the most beautiful, easiest way for you to be introduced to it by putting something fun into it. So definitely go and try that out and let me know how that goes, or let Lindsay know how that goes. And so, Lindsay, in your opinion, what role does innovation play in counseling practices, and how do you specifically stay up to date with the latest developments in the field?
Yeah, I think this is such an important question, Katrina. So I think about how, schools and students are changing all the time. And so being able to be innovative, being able to try new things, being able to like stay relevant with the things that are happening is a really important thing. I think about Jonathan Haidt has a new book out called The Anxious Generation. And I think about, what are the kind of main things that I do as a school counselor? And one of the main things is to help students with anxiety. I think, we're seeing a generation that is in a mental health crisis and is having a lot of changes with their mental health. And we as school counselors, we've always kind of known about anxiety. That's always been something that's been around, but now it's really prevalent. And so upskilling in kind of learning about anxiety and how to help students with that is a really important kind of really relevant thing in school counseling right now that we need to know about and we need to do. So I think I think innovation is super important because humans are always changing, students are always changing, and best practices are always changing. And so we need to be able to stay kind of up to date with our practice and keep practicing the things we know, but also learning new things to help us be the best that we can be. I really rely on the International School Counselor Association. I think they're incredible at creating learning opportunities for school counselors. So with the collaborative that they have in October and November, which is virtual, so people from all over the world can join. And you heard me, it's for like a total of like, I forget how many weeks at a time, but it's throughout October and November. And there's just hundreds of different opportunities provided for school counselors. And then they have their monthly webinars that are free if you're an ISCA member. And then they have the annual conference in different parts of the world. So I think they are an incredible resource for school counselors. I think specifically in the topic of AI, obviously I've been doing a lot of research and looking into AI a lot, and I found actually an AI Facebook group for school counselors. So I highly recommend for everyone to join that. It's called AI in School Counseling, and it is moderated by a school counseling professor out of Florida. And there's lots of articles posted there, lots of information for school counselors. So I highly recommend that. And then another thought leader in this category of AI kind of in general that I think really simplifies AI, how to use it, what's important in using it, the data behind it, is a professor out of UPenn's Wharton. His name is Ethan Mullet. And he has created a newsletter on Substack, and it's called One Useful Thing. And so that's something that I signed up for, and I get it now in my email every week. And every time I read it, there's a really clear, concise, at least one or two or three things that I'm taking out of it that I've learned about AI. So I highly recommend those two resources as good starting points for school counselors.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I agree with you. ISCA is an incredible resource. And again, learning new things, did not know about the Facebook group. So thank you for that new tip for myself and for the listeners. And also, Lindsay, we do talk to a lot of people who are new to the counseling field or exploring the counseling field. And with all of your amazing, incredible experience, what's one piece of advice I would say you would give to somebody who is an aspiring school counselor and looking to make a meaningful impact with a diverse educational setting and learning the skills of AI? So maybe two
Great.
suggestions.
Two things. Yeah, thanks, Katrina. I think this is such a great question, and I think it's such an important one to me. There were so many people who helped me when I was first starting as a school counselor, and so I feel really devoted and passionate about, especially helping new counselors starting in the field. So I really appreciate this question a lot. When I hear your question, it really makes me think about two different quotes that I've heard as I've been researching and as I've been learning. So the first one comes from a Harvard Business School article, and in it says, "AI won't replace people, but people with AI skills will replace those without." Mm-hmm. And so I think that's like a really important thing to pause on and to think about. Okay, if we kind of have this like dystopian view of like AI are going to replace all the jobs, well, actually that's replace all the people in jobs. Like that's probably not going to happen. We're going to still always need school counselors, but those school counselors that can harness the use of AI in their work are going to end up being more productive. They're going to end up having more time for the students. They're going to end up being more visible within the school. And so they will end up replacing people who have not honed their AI skills. So I think that is a really important piece of advice for new counselors starting out. And I think everyone else in the field as well. Like this is a really important moment to really pause and think about, the importance of being able to have time for our students. We all want more time. And so this is something that can help to give it to you. All right. I think the thing also really to share is a second quote that is by someone who, she was the director of LSE, so the London School of Economics, and she says, "In the past, jobs were about muscles. Now they're about brains, but in the future, they'll be about the heart." So I think like this is something that is really important to highlight because the future of work is really going to hinge on the qualities of emotional intelligence, creativity, empathy, the things that AI can't do. These are the human elements that we can provide that AI cannot provide. So I think it's really important to highlight that. We can bring the human connection and we can bring the understanding and create an atmosphere of caring within our school communities and in a way that AI will never be able to do. So it's really important, I think, to keep that at the forefront of our work and what we're doing.
So true. The 2 points you mentioned and the quotes were absolutely beautiful and spot on, and I couldn't agree with you more. Lindsay, thank you for your time today because honestly, I learned quite a bit, and I'm sure people who are listening to this, my demographics is usually between 25 to 35. That is the majority, but we have people in every age group. I definitely learned something. So thank you so much for your time, for your expertise, your teachings, and also if people wish to get in touch with you or connect with you, how can they?
I love this question because as a human being, my number one value in life is connection. I love connecting with other people. So yeah, I think the best place to find me is in LinkedIn. So under the name Lindsay Kehl.
Okay, I will leave her link to her bio, and that will be in the show notes below here on this episode. So I got you guys' back. And Lindsay, thank you so much for your time today. It was really fun just listening and learning and growing professionally. So thank you again.
Thank you, Katrina. This was such a fun opportunity.
Awesome. Awesome. So glad you had a good time. And everybody, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you guys got something out of it. And I can't wait to hear your learnings and insights. And send me a message sometime. Let me know what you thought about this episode, how you feel about it. What's your mindset shift after hearing Lindsay's 4 points today? I'd love to know and hear about it. So catch you guys on the very next episode. Did you love the episode? I hope you're feeling inspired and no longer feeling alone out there, and you're ready to evolve and become a better person. Make sure that you share this podcast or take a screenshot and post it on your social media. That's how you help spread this podcast organically, and people can find it much easier when you share, or share it with a loved one. I'm your host, Katrina Marie, and make it your mission to be a blessing in someone else's life today.